Versa best company.
Versa Business System.
It's a better
Versa Business Systems.
Versa Business System.
Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Versa Business Systems, Shaheen Mazloom. We're here with a guest today who's going to teach us all about nutrition. Boomer, founder and CEO of Troscriptions. How you doing today, brother?
Shaheen, I am doing fantastic, and I'm really excited to be here with you today on this show. I'm sure we're going to have a good time.
So for those out there that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself and what Troscriptions does.
Sure. So just by way of background, I got into this space actually about 5 years ago. And no, more like 7. And it was because I had worked in investment banking, worked myself to the ground like everybody else in investment banking, found out that I had a little bit of a heart condition.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, what happened was I had this little bit of butting heads with what was then the Singapore medical system. I was a young guy, like I still am pretty young, and to tell me that, like, hey, you should go off and, you know, treat this in a certain way and don't worry about ever being a high performer again, that didn't resonate with me.
No.
And so, yeah, absolutely not, right? And so set me off on this journey, and I ended up meeting a few doctors along the way on that journey who wanted to really focus on health optimization. And
Right.
So we actually started a nonprofit too, which teaches doctors and healthcare practitioners how to optimize for health rather than treat disease.
Love that.
That really is emphasizing performance, because entrepreneurs, what do we care about? We care about performance. How do we get like the most out of ourselves on a day-to-day basis?
100%.
And along the way, because a nonprofit needs something to support it, but also because the way we teach doctors and practitioners is more of a long-term approach to health,
Yep.
you need short-term solutions to things like focus, stress, sleep, immune system function. So that's where Troscriptions came from.
Awesome.
It was actually born out of this growing need we have in our healthcare system to actually focus on health.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, I'm excited to talk about it all the time, but it's a great time in our existence as humans to keep this conversation going, because we all need it. And especially as entrepreneurs, like, your brain, your
100%.
body is all you have.
Yeah.
Right?
We got to be operating at peak performance, right? Like, we can't afford to be sick. We can't afford to be tired. We can't afford to have foggy brain, right? We just cannot afford it, right? You know, thank God I rarely get sick, but when I get sick, it puts me out. You know what I mean? And the whole business suffers. You know, if I'm out for a day, like, it could be detrimental for the business, you know, and it's unfortunate. That's just the way it is. And so, yeah, 100%. So, you know, the only thing that I've really learned, you know, and I started recently looking into, you know, different ways to treat, you know, like you said, the short-term solutions. And, you know, I did some stuff with 10X Health and did the whole, what's it called? The
Genetic
testing. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people know about that or have seen something about that probably recently with all the drama going on with Grant Cardone and you know, and Gary Brecka, you know. So what is, I guess, what's different between what you do and what they do? Let's start with that.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk from a perspective of health optimization medicine, which is our nonprofit. And so what is health optimization medicine, and how does it differ from genetic testing?
Yeah.
And what I really want to paint a picture of is that genetic testing has relatively limited use.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is a genetics test will give you probability weighted approaches to things like diet, to things like exercise, to things like even detoxification. And some of that information can be incredibly useful,
Right.
but it doesn't tell you where your body is now. It's the blueprint. It's
Yeah.
the computer code. But what happens when, Shaheen, we were talking earlier, you grew up in London, right? Or you were born in London, grew up in Minnesota, and have moved around all these places. I was born outside of Chicago, now have returned, but I lived in Singapore. What happens when you go to these different environments? There is a change that happens, and we need to know where your cells are now. That's called metabolomics. And so in health optimization medicine, what you do when you work with a practitioner, you get a blood draw, you pee in a cup,
Yeah.
you also do a stool sample, you find out exactly the nutrients that your body needs now,
Right.
not that probability approach.
Yes.
So that's the first big difference between ourselves
that makes so much sense. So like I was so frustrated because when I heard Gary talk about it for the first time, I got to watch him speak about it the first time he came on the 10X stage. And I got to meet him. We actually met in the elevator, and my wife and him had a great conversation at the gym. It was really cool. But I had never really looked into, like, I consider myself young. I'm all, 37, and never really worried about health, right? Like, I eat pizza on Friday night and, whatever, right? Go to the gym a couple times a week and forget about it. But so when I learned about this genetic test, it made sense to me. I'm like, okay, yep, I'm made up of genetics and this is who I am. And, you tell me I take this, and this, and it cures me, right? And so I did the whole thing, right? I did the supplement package and all of it, and literally no change, like no difference. Didn't feel different. Didn't I mean, I don't know if any of my levels of anything got better because I don't check that stuff, but like I didn't feel any better. I didn't feel any different. Like I'm still groggy and tired and not sleeping better, and all these things. And I'm like, dude, I'm paying like a few $100s a month now for almost 2 years, right?
Sure.
And there's no Jeff. I'm just like, I think I'm just taking these supplements to take them at this point, But I found that way with a lot of supplements, and I've noticed, at least for me, I think everybody reacts differently to certain things, right? So like I know people who can smoke marijuana all day long and function and not, and be fine. I take 2 puffs of marijuana and I'm falling asleep. It doesn't matter if it's a sativa.
I'm gone.
It does not matter. I'm loopy. My wife, same thing. She takes 1 hit and you would think she's on acid. You know what I mean? Like everybody reacts differently to certain things. And you're saying it's genetics is giving you a probability, but what you're doing is you're testing the blood, the urine, the your current makeup, to tell you how your body is factually right now.
Exactly. And so that science is called metabolomics, and it's been around since the 1980s. You had characters like Linus Pauling using it back then, but we now know within a reasonable degree of precision where your cells are now and where they have been in the past 30 days or so, right?
Wow.
And so what's that value to an entrepreneur, right? First off, you mentioned something that's very common, is that people say like, oh, I'm spending so much money on supplements and I'm not getting the value. So think about the health world in general. And I work in the health world.
Huge lucrative. I mean, it's just like the amount of supplement companies out there, like, and some of the stuff that's in the supplements, you shouldn't be ingesting, right? Like it's wild. It's wild.
And we'll get into Troscriptions here in a second and how we tackle that differently.
Yeah.
But like, if you think about an entrepreneur, if you have issues like brain fog, well, I can test something called the chirinic acid pathway, which that's a fancy name to basically look at brain inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're stressed all the time, you have brain inflammation, you likely have brain fog. There are very simple things like vitamin B6 that can address that pathway. Now, that's not the only thing you can look at. You can also look for in your stool for instances of pathogens or parasites. Those can hog all of your energy. And what do we want as entrepreneurs, right? Like we want energy.
Yeah.
And so I can almost guarantee, like I don't see many clients anymore, but the ones I do are entrepreneurs. All of them have issues with B vitamins. All of them have this chironic acid issue initially. And one of the most, you ever watch the film Boiler Room?
Yo,
Back in the
100
yeah.
times.
Yeah. So what Ben Affleck back in the day,
Yeah.
he used to say, show them a 3% return and they'll trust you with your kids for the weekend.
Yeah.
And so what you do is you give somebody vitamin B6, they have alleviation of this particular chironic acid issue. And of course, then they're going to trust you with everything else, right? And so while you might pay a little bit for supplements up front, the intention over time is to layer in those lifestyle factors to help you really go out there and kick ass in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so that's Metabolomics. Troscriptions comes in here because Metabolomics will take time. Nutrient and hormone balancing will take time. But you as an entrepreneur don't have time. You already told me what happens when you go down for one day, right? But how do I get you that point in time focus? Well, what we did with Troscriptions is we built the most effective products for various solutions. So focus, stress, sleep, immune system function. And the way we did that was we said, what are the most effective ingredients? The illegal ones we keep for ourselves, but the legal ones, what we do is we kind of look at, okay, if we're going to do this and we don't necessarily care about cost, what are the most effective ones? And so you end up with something like for focus and entrepreneurs, blue cannatine. It has 1 milligram of nicotine in it, which will turn your brain on fire. It also has something called methylene blue. Methylene blue has been touted on Joe Rogan a couple times recently.
That's the only thing I have that I notice a difference is the methylene blue. I take like 5 drops in some water every morning, and I do notice a difference with that.
We have a troche, right? And so a troche, it comes in this little package, but they're little squares. And the reason for that is because the droppers, sometimes if they're exposed to light or if they're transported not correctly, the methylene blue actually degrades. And so you don't want that. And so you take a troche, you can swallow it, or if you want a blue tongue, you can put it in your upper lip between cheek and gums, let it dissolve. People do that, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. And in about 15 to 30 minutes, you have a pretty reliable effect. So brain fog goes away. With methylene blue, I like to think of it as like my health optimization insurance. I take it daily, right? And it's one of those things where, your energy levels pick up. You notice that your focus picks up, your memory picks up, and all of those things for an entrepreneur, that's so fucking valuable.
Huge. If I get a couple more hours in my day because I'm not tired, like dude, imagine 2 hours a day, 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month. Like that's insanity. Like the amount of production that you can get out of that. And that's important for every business owner.
What can you do with 40 hours a month, right?
Dude, that's an extra week. You can't, people say that you can't, time is something you can't get back, but time is something you can create more by saving time elsewhere, right? Like if you don't need to stop at 6 o'clock because you can't think straight anymore and you can go till 8 o'clock, you got an extra week in your work week.
This is why health is so it's core to entrepreneurs, and
100%.
I do practice, and so through our framework in the nonprofit, I do coach and work with other entrepreneurs.
Right.
Only a limited sense. I don't actually take on new clients, but I focus on that particular subset because one, I am one, and I also know that you don't have any time already.
Yeah.
So anything that I give you has to make such a multiplier effect in your life that you're going to get more time.
Yeah.
And that's where, these solutions come into play. And so things like TroZ, giving you an extra hour of sleep a night or even more efficient sleep.
Yeah.
Like that is super important for somebody who's on the go all the time.
100%. I'm waking up 5-6 times a night. It's like, it's crazy. But and I think most entrepreneurs deal with something along those sides, and they've tried every supplement you can think of, and they think some work, and most of them probably actually don't, and it's a psychological thing, and it's crazy, finding the right supplement. So like, I'm sure everybody else is thinking the same thing. How do we know that this is going to be any different? Right? Like what's your process? And like, I know you said like you find the best ingredients and this, that, and the other. Like there's a lot of people that advertise the same stuff. You know
Of
what I
course,
mean?
right? Like, so why should you trust me? Why am I not bullshitting you? First off, my number one piece of advice to everybody listening to this: go find a practitioner who will do a metabolomics test for you. Don't even listen to me, and go
Right.
pay for that test, because that will put a
Well,
filter
that's
on
the
the health
first
wealth.
step to the process anyway, right? Like,
Of course.
yeah.
And you should always have test results that guide your recommendations, because
Right.
otherwise you're just subject to somebody.
100%.
You're subject to somebody who's charismatic.
Yeah.
But let's say you get your test results done and you find out that you're deficient in a few things. What makes us different than everybody else? So the things that you'll find, and we do provide this all on our website if you ask for it, is that we third-party test all of our ingredients. So if you look at methylene blue, one of the dangers there is that if it's not pharmaceutical grade,
Right.
it could contain heavy metals. And what do heavy metals do? They slow you down. They make you sick. They actually block energy production in your
So
body. The exact
opposite of what you're trying to do, right?
Of what you're trying to do, right? And so we third-party test it for heavy metals, micro analysis, as well as purity and potency.
Great.
You can see all of that on our website.
Awesome.
We do that with every single one of our ingredients. We have 4 medical doctors on the team.
Awesome.
And the reason why that's important is because all of us, including, I'm not a medical doctor, but a healthcare practitioner, we all use our products in practice. And
Right.
we need something that we can trust.
Right.
If I'm going to go ahead and turn around and give it to 300 people that see me, I need to know that I can trust this.
Yeah.
So,
and let's be honest, if people out there don't know much about this this space, most companies have one doctor because you have to have a doctor.
Well, exactly.
Right?
And usually that doctor is a paid person
Right.
that they brought in
Exactly.
later, right? And it was started by some clever marketer. Don't get me wrong. Our company, we do pride ourselves on being innovative. We will bring you new ingredients in new delivery mechanisms.
Awesome.
So you're not going to necessarily get capsules. But those 4 doctors were there at the absolute beginning,
That's
right?
cool. Yeah.
And so it's different from the rest of the
100%.
companies who they basically pay a keynote speaker,
Right.
right?
Yep.
We're different in that
Yep.
sense.
Yeah. So it's actually, this is something that means something to every single person on that, in that team. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we have to, because if I'm going to give a client something, especially that I have a stake in, it needs to work every single time, because your fail rate, if it doesn't work, and your reputation as a practitioner depends on that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really the main gist of the business.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we get what's the name of the testing called?
So if you get a metabolomics test,
Metabolomics test.
yeah, and so let's take through like an ideal process for entrepreneurs, right? And so an entrepreneur, if you were to let's say even approach our nonprofit's website, and I don't make any money on the nonprofit, we would connect you to a practitioner. They can order the metabolomics test for you. What they do is essentially serve as your Morpheus to you being Neo, right? They're going to guide you through the matrix. And what they do is they order the test for you. Metabolomics test is what I would go for. You actually don't even have to use our practitioners.
So with a metabolomics test, if you have health insurance, is that going to be covered, or is this something that you're going to have to pay out of pocket?
It's out of pocket. Now,
what kind of investment are we usually talking about?
You're looking at probably $300 to $500.
Okay.
But if you think about what you've told me in terms of a couple $100 a month spent, your savings for being more precise is there.
100%.
Right?
There's nothing more valuable than that. Yeah.
Exactly. And then so you also want a stool test, at least initially. And I would encourage people to look at 3-day stool tests rather than 1-day stool tests, because your small intestine and in general, your bowel movements, most people do not clear their bowel movements in 1 day or their entire bowel system. So
right.
And so that gives you a broader picture. And then finally, I'd also look at really good food sensitivity tests. Now I emphasize really good because a lot of them are crappy. that will allow you to put a filter on your diet and be able to really hone in on what foods are right for you.
Right.
Those 3 tests are a great start. When you start to get above the age of 35, or if you're an entrepreneur and you've worked yourself to death before then, which does happen,
Right.
looking at hormone tests become very useful too.
Awesome. So we've got the metabolomics test, the stool test, the hormone test, and then what was the third?
4th one was food sensitivities.
Food sensitivities.
And again, what I always say is, though it
And
costs you a
what
little
is
bit,
that?
so food sensitivity test essentially looks at IgG and IgE reactions in your body to taking certain foods. So let's say, for example, like I have a sensitivity to eggs, meaning that whenever I eat eggs, there's a low-grade inflammation that's produced. Now, on a day-to-day basis,
Now,
what
is
does
that like
feel
is that like if you're eating something and you usually have to go to the bathroom right after eating it?
Not necessarily going to bath. That could be a signal.
I got
that
you.
could be a signal of something else
Right,
too.
like when I eat
But
crabs, I always gotta go take a
which
bath.
is hard when you live in Maryland.
Yes,
right?
'cause I
for
get
those-
them. I get them right off my dock. Like if I'm cooking a steak, I go to my crab pot. I pull out a couple crabs, throw them in the pot.
Yeah, exactly. And you throw a little Old Bay on it, you're good to go, right? And so, but like, let's say, for example, you get bloating, which is a very common thing. Like if I get gassy, that could be a sign of a food sensitivity. It
Interesting.
could also be a sign
Dude, my
of
wife has
overgrowth
the
of bacteria.
worst gases ever. We got to get her this.
Yeah, and so there are companies out there. I think it's like IBS Foods has developed a test that looks at 18 different foods that are commonly associated with irritable bowel syndrome and autoimmune conditions.
Somebody was telling me that irritable bowel syndrome is actually super common, and most people don't even know they have it. Is that true?
Well, irritable bowel syndrome is it's a very nuanced state and can mean different things for different people. What I would encourage you to look at it as is all of us are going to have foods that we're sensitive to.
Right.
And all of us are going to have foods that give us energy in different ways. Like avocados and blueberries for me give me energy, right? For a lot of people, maybe not so. And
I don't know of any food that gives me energy. I'm sure there's got to be, right? But I can't.
But there's also foods that really bring me down, like dairy. I am not pleasant to be around, right? And so, and something like 80% of the world is lactose intolerant. So we want to look at foods that give you energy because you're an entrepreneur. You need to go out there and like kick ass.
I mean, even for anybody though, you know, like we're talking about entrepreneur because obviously most of our my guests are entrepreneurs, but like this makes sense for absolutely. I mean, anybody needs to be running at their at their prime, right? Like even the stay-at-home mom needs the most energy that she can get, right? Like.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is where we come to the nonprofit, and the nonprofit is all about perspective shifts.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to shift perspective is most of us don't deal with health until we're sick.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So how do we start shifting our perspective from disease to health? We want to talk about health now because the best recipe for me for longevity is I want to be healthy now.
Yeah.
I don't care if I live to 120 and I can't move. That's a horrible idea, right? Like, I want to be healthy now. So that perspective shift is the core of the nonprofit. And so again, you know, I would encourage people to, if nothing else, like you don't have to buy our products, but
get those tests done.
Go get the test done.
100%.
And you know what I would say is like the products are great. They are the best in class for what they do, but you do want to go out and get the test because ultimately, though it's more upfront cost, it will save you over the long run.
Yeah, for sure. If anything, it'll help you feel better because you're going to know what you need. So now the metabolics test, usually $300 to $500, no big deal. Now, are the other tests about the same, like your stool tests and
roughly about the same?
Okay,
right?
so
you're
all in all, you could be looking at a couple grand.
Probably more like $1,000 to $1,100, and you would want to work with a practitioner here. So there is a practitioner cost in that too.
Right.
But think about long-term savings here, right? And
100%. Honestly, I would pay any amount. Like I have this conversation with people all the time. I will pay any amount to feel good. If I'm feeling good in the morning, I am gonna crush it that day, right? Like I could have a $300,000 day. So I'll pay $2,000 for some tests that might make me feel good for a long time. You know what I mean? Like people
Exactly.
don't realize that, like how valuable good sleep is, good rest. Like, dude, I remember I was staying in New Orleans for a weekend for a wedding, right? And I don't know what I was thinking, booking a hotel on Bourbon
Beale
Street.
Street. Oh, Bourbon Street. Yeah,
So
that's
the
right.
first night, we partied late, so it wasn't too bad. I might have slept a couple hours, whatever. But then the second night, I didn't sleep at all because they're literally pounding the drums outside the window till 6 a.m. and they stop till 7:30, and then they're at it again. You know what I mean? So there's like an hour and a half break, and by the third night, I'm going insane. So I booked this hotel to try and get a few hours sleep before the wedding, and they wouldn't let me check in early. I'm like going nuts. I'm like, all right, well, give me a refund. Oh, well, you got to get a refund from here. I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And then I find the Ritz Carlton's like 2 blocks down the street. I'm like, can you get me in a room right now? Yes. Okay. Boom. And so I had 3 hotel rooms that night just because I wanted a few hours of sleep. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
the value. And my point to that is price, right? Like all these entrepreneurs think the price is so, no, people will pay for value. If you're solving their problem and it's a big problem for them, they will pay any amount to get that problem solved.
100% agree. If you think what you just mentioned, sleep, like I will pay anything for a good night's sleep, whether it's a big business class ticket on a plane
Yep.
or, my sleep system at home is ridiculous, right? And so like it's something that, because similar to you, if I show up at a different state in the world, I can produce that income that
Yeah.
makes that cost so much worth it, or so very worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. 100%. So what does that process look like when we get the test results? Are we sending those test results to your company and then you guys are looking at them, or how does that work?
These are actually like two separate things. So one is just general good practice. Work with a practitioner, get your test results from
Right.
working with a practitioner. So you'll go, and if you need practitioner referrals, like I can give you all my contact information. I'm happy
Awesome.
to put people in touch with those people. And so, those types of practitioners, they'll take you through an analysis. They'll
Right.
walk you through what your body needs. If your body then if you say like, hey, look, I'm a really shitty sleeper, maybe there's something that's worth it for you in Troscriptions. And the questions that I would ask are, is your sleep related to stress and not being able to get to sleep?
Right.
Then we have something like TroCalm. Is your sleep related to, I wake up in the middle of the night? Then TroZ is definitely for you. And so there are products that, given your situation, can help you right now while you're
Right.
working with that practitioner. And I always say work with a practitioner because it's going to add, it's like working with a coach, right? When you work with a coach, and you mentioned Grant Cardone earlier, or somebody else, like you work with a coach,
100%.
it's a force multiplier. And so getting that practitioner to really look at this health world
Hmm.
from will also save you time too. And
Yeah.
then you can dedicate that more to your business, or, whatever else you're doing. Right.
Yeah.
And so, or your relationship. Right. And so we have products there that if you need issues with focus, or if you have issues with focus, go to Blue Cannatine. If you have issues with general energy, we talked about methylene blue. We call it just blue in our company. And then TroCalm is stress, TroZ is sleep, Tromune is immune system
Right.
function. So if you're sick, like you said, take some Tromune. It'll help you get back on
That's
your
awesome,
way
man,
pretty
dude. I
quickly.
different, but as far as your products, what kind of a discount can we give to our listeners and viewers that are listening in
Of
right now?
course. Look, Shaheen, I've enjoyed this conversation. So, if you head over to Troscriptions.com, we'll put a coupon code for you guys in the show notes. And,
Awesome.
it'll
Coupon code Versa.
coupon code Versa, and you'll get 10% off
Awesome.
anything. And, if you spend over $100, we give you free shipping too. But
Beautiful.
yeah, I would love to hear from all of your listeners. So you can, reach out to me. And look, anything that goes through customer service, if you just say like, hey, mention the name Boomer, and eventually get to me.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Yeah. I know one thing. I'm definitely gonna start looking into those tests. it makes sense.
Yep.
I know I'm not at my prime, and I know I could probably use some help getting there. So, dude, I appreciate the conversation. Appreciate you taking the time to jump on and talk to us today.
Well, Shaheen, I really appreciate you hosting this show and love what you're doing. If there's anything I
I
could ever be
appreciate it.
helpful with, just let me know.
Awesome, man. Thanks, Boomer.
Take care.